First Contact's Folly. Supreme Commander Vexterra of the Valdorian Empire stood motionless on the bridge of the Eternal Dawn, her iridescent scales reflecting the soft blue glow of the holographic displays surrounding her command post. The massive dreadnought, along with its escort fleet of 30 vessels, had just emerged from hyperspace at the edge of what humans called the Sol system. Their arrival marked the beginning of what should have been a routine first contact protocol with yet another emerging spacefaring species. "Display the human defense fleet," she commanded, her double pupils contracting as the main view screen flickered to life. What appeared before her caused several of her junior officers to emit barely suppressed clicks of amusement. The Earth ships, if one could even call them that, looked nothing like the sleek, standardized vessels that dominated galactic warfare. Instead, they appeared to be a hodgepodge collection of varied shapes and sizes, many clearly converted from civilian vessels. Some appeared to be little more than modified cargo haulers, while others resembled mobile space stations cobbled together from different architectural styles. "Fascinating," muttered Science Officer Rental, his sensory tentacles writhing with curiosity. "They've achieved faster than light travel within the last decade, yet their fleet appears to be assembled from pre-FTL technology." Vexterra's secondary breathing vents flared in what her species considered a smile. "It seems our intelligence reports were correct. The humans have indeed managed to stumble upon FTL technology, but they clearly lack the industrial base to properly utilize it." The bridge crew continued their analysis of the Earth fleet, each new scan bringing fresh waves of dismissive chittering. One vessel particularly caught their attention, a massive construct that appeared to be assembled from interconnected habitat modules, with what looked like civilian-grade shield generators awkwardly attached to its hull. "Supreme Commander," her communications officer called out, "we're receiving a transmission from the human fleet." "Very well," Vexterra responded, settling into her command chair. "Let's see what these innovators have to say." The view screen shifted to show a human male with graying hair and warm brown skin, wearing what appeared to be a simple blue uniform devoid of any ornate decorations, another break from galactic standard protocols. "This is Admiral James Chen of the Earth Defense Force," the human stated calmly. "Welcome to Sol System. We've noticed your fleet's weapon systems are powered up. Would you care to explain your intentions?" Vexterra allowed her scales to shift to a slightly more authoritative shade of blue. "I am Supreme Commander Vexterra of the Valdorian Empire. We are here to begin standard integration procedures for emerging spacefaring species. Your achievement of FTL travel, while impressive for your development stage, indicates you require proper guidance to join galactic society." The human's expression remained neutral, but something flickered in his eyes. "Integration procedures. I wasn't aware we had requested any such thing." "Request is not necessary," Vexterra replied. "It is standard protocol. Your fleet," she paused, letting her disdain color her words, "demonstrates clearly that you need our assistance. Those vessels of yours are barely more than retrofitted civilian craft." For the first time, Admiral Chen smiled. It wasn't a particularly warm expression. "Ah, you've noticed our design philosophy. Tell me, Supreme Commander, are you familiar with the human concept of repurposing?" Before Vexterra could respond, her tactical officer's voice cut through the conversation. "Supreme Commander, I'm detecting unusual energy signatures from the human fleet. This can't be right." "Explain," Vexterra demanded, her scales shifting to a more alert shade. "The vessel we identified as a habitat cluster. It's generating quantum field distortions consistent with experimental phase shift technology. And those civilian shield generators. They're not generators at all. They're some kind of gravitational pulse emitters." Admiral Chen's smile widened slightly. "As I was about to explain, humans have a rather unique approach to spacecraft design. We believe in working with what we have, and more importantly, we believe in hiding our true capabilities until they're needed." Vexterra's tactical display suddenly erupted with new readings as the human fleet began to transform. The awkward-looking habitat cluster separated into dozens of smaller, highly maneuverable units. Cargo containers split open to reveal ranks of combat drones. What had appeared to be civilian vessels now bristled with weapons that had been completely masked from initial scans. Impossible, Vexterra whispered, her scales losing their color. Your technology level, our intelligence reports, were based on what we wanted you to see. Chen finished for her. You see, Supreme Commander, humanity has learned much from studying our own history. The most successful military innovations often come from adapting existing technology in unexpected ways. Those habitat modules you dismissed, they're actually independent battle platforms with phase shift capability, allowing them to move through your shields as if they weren't there. Those civilian shield generators, gravity pulse weapons that can crush a capital ship like an aluminum can. Vexterra watched in growing horror as her tactical display updated with the true capabilities of the Earth fleet. What had appeared to be a primitive, cobbled-together defense force was revealing itself to be one of the most innovative and dangerous military forces she had ever encountered. Now then, Admiral Chen continued, his voice taking on a harder edge. Shall we discuss these integration procedures of yours? Or would you prefer to reconsider your approach to first contact with Earth? The Supreme Commander of the Valdorian Empire, leader of one of the most powerful fleets in known space, found herself doing something she had never done before. She began to retreat. Stand down all weapons, she commanded her fleet. It seems we have greatly misunderstood the situation. Perhaps we should begin these discussions again with a more diplomatic approach. A wise decision, Chen replied. We'll be happy to discuss peaceful relations between our peoples. On equal terms, of course. As the transmission ended, Vexterra turned to her science officer. Rental, I want a full analysis of their technology. How did we miss this? The science officer's tentacles twisted in agitation. Supreme Commander, I believe we made a crucial error. We assumed their technological progress would follow the same linear path as other species. Instead, they've taken their existing technology and evolved it in ways we never considered possible. They didn't build a fleet to match ours. They built one that makes ours obsolete. Vexterra stared at the human fleet, its true nature now revealed, and felt a sensation she hadn't experienced in centuries. Fear, not of the weapons or the technology, but of the minds that had conceived them. What else were these humans capable of? Send word to the Imperial Council, she ordered. The humans are not to be underestimated. They haven't just mastered space travel. They've reinvented it. And I fear this is only the beginning of what they can do. The art of adaptation. In the emergency session of the Valdorian Imperial Council, holographic displays flickered with images of Earth's defense fleet. Supreme Commander Vexterra's report had caused unprecedented concern among the Empire's highest authorities. The Grand Chamber, with its soaring crystalline spires and ancient ceremonial markings, had never seemed so tense. High Counselor Zexpan, his scales a deep purple of concern, leaned forward in his seat. This data cannot be accurate. You mean to tell us that these humans have developed phase shift technology using repurposed habitat modules? Not only developed it, Vexterra responded, her scales still pale from the encounter, but weaponized it in ways we never imagined. Our initial scans showed nothing because we were looking for traditional military signatures. The humans have developed an entirely different approach to space warfare. The council chamber erupted in agitated clicks and whistles as the assembled leaders processed this information. A hologram in the center of the chamber showed one of Earth's vessels transforming from what appeared to be a simple cargo hauler into a heavily armed warship. Science Director Melterra raised her sensory appendages in fascination. Remarkable. They've developed a technology that allows their ships to fundamentally alter their structure. But how did they manage to mask the energy signatures? That's what makes their approach so ingenious, Vexterra explained. They didn't try to hide the energy signatures. They made them look like something else entirely. What we dismissed as inefficient power distribution was actually a carefully designed camouflage system. The hologram shifted to show detailed scans of various Earth vessels. What had initially appeared to be crude modifications and irregular design choices were revealed to be sophisticated systems hidden in plain sight. "Look at this vessel," Vexterra continued, highlighting a ship that resembled a collection of industrial processing units. "We assumed it was a converted mining platform. In reality, those processing units are quantum field generators. They can create localized space-time distortions that make our traditional targeting systems useless." High Counselor Zexvan's scales shifted to a deeper shade of purple. "How did they develop such technologies without our detection? Our monitoring of pre-FTL civilizations is thorough." High Counselor Zexvan's scales shifted to a deeper shade of purple. "How did they develop such technologies without our detection? Our monitoring of pre-FTL civilizations is thorough." A new voice joined the conversation. Strategic Analyst Kretal, who had been quietly processing the data, stepped forward. "I believe I understand their methodology. The humans didn't develop new technologies. They'd reimagined existing ones. Those quantum field generators, they're modified from standard atmospheric processors. The phase shift technology, adapted from civilian transportation systems." The hologram displayed a series of comparisons between standard civilian technologies and their military adaptations. Each example showed how the humans had taken existing, well-understood technologies and transformed them into powerful military assets. "But the most concerning aspect," Kretal continued, "is their distributed defense network. What appears to be a scattered collection of civilian stations and satellites is actually an interconnected military grid. They've turned their entire solar system into a fortified defense zone." The council chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. The humans hadn't just built a fleet. They had revolutionized the very concept of space warfare. "There's more," Vexterra added, her voice grave. "We've detected similar modifications being made to their planetary infrastructure. Cities that can transform into fortresses, transportation networks that double as defensive grids. Even their waste management systems have been repurposed for military applications." A junior analyst rushed into the chamber, their scales flickering with urgency. "Supreme Commander, we've detected new activities in the Sol system. The humans are. They're moving their planets." "Explain," Zexvan demanded. The analyst pulled up a new hologram showing the Sol system. Several of the smaller planets and numerous asteroids were slowly changing their orbits in precise, controlled patterns. "They've adapted their mining operations into planetary engines," the analyst explained. "They're creating a dynamic defense grid using entire celestial bodies. The gravitational interactions alone would make any invasion attempt practically impossible to coordinate." Strategic Analyst Kretal's scales paled. "They're not just defending their system, they're redesigning it. Every piece of civilian infrastructure, every aspect of their society, has been engineered to serve a dual purpose, and we never saw it because we were looking for traditional military development." High Counselor Zexvan turned to face the assembled council. "This changes everything. Our entire approach to galactic warfare is based on overwhelming force and superior technology. But the humans, they've shown us that true advancement isn't about having the most powerful weapons. It's about having the most adaptable ones," Vexterra finished. "They don't need to match our technology. They've transcended it entirely. Every civilian technology we've shared with emerging civilizations, every standard design we've established as galactic norm, the humans could potentially transform all of it into something we never imagined." The council chamber erupted in urgent discussions as the implications became clear. The Valdorian Empire, with all its military might and technological superiority, had encountered something entirely new. A species that didn't just adapt to challenges, they reimagined the very nature of those challenges. As the emergency session continued, none of the council members noticed the small maintenance drone in the corner of the chamber, its design seemingly identical to the millions of others that served the Empire. None of them realized that this particular drone had been subtly modified, its standard cleaning protocols repurposed for gathering intelligence. The humans, it seemed, were already teaching the galaxy new ways to think about technology. Hidden in plain sight, the Galactic Commerce Hub on Station Nexus 7 was normally a place of orderly trade and diplomatic exchange. Today, however, it churned with nervous energy as representatives from dozens of species gathered to discuss the growing influence of humanity on interstellar affairs. Ambassador Anna of the Centaurian Collective stood before the assembled delegation, her crystalline form refracting light in patterns that conveyed deep concern. The humans have begun offering technological consulting services to various worlds in the mid-rim sectors. While they claim these are purely civilian innovations, our analysis suggests otherwise. The massive holographic display behind her showed various infrastructure projects across multiple worlds. To an untrained eye, they appeared to be simple modernization efforts. Updated transportation systems, improved power grids, more efficient waste management facilities. But to the increasingly worried galactic community, each project represented potential military applications that had been overlooked for centuries. On Proxima II, Anna continued, they helped design a new public transit system. It wasn't until after completion that our engineers realized the entire network could be transformed into a planetary defense grid within hours. The maintenance robots, their adaptable combat units, the passenger pods, mobile command centers, even the ticket validation systems have been engineered to double as encrypted military communication networks. The assembled representatives murmured uneasily. A Thoraxian delegate raised their primary appendage. But surely this violates galactic regulations on military technology transfer. That's the most brilliant part, came a new voice. Dr. Xental, the renowned Valdorian xenotechnologist, stepped onto the speaking platform. None of these innovations technically qualify as military technology. Every single component is civilian-grade equipment, readily available throughout the galaxy. The humans aren't transferring weapons technology. They're teaching others to see new possibilities in existing infrastructure. The holographic display shifted to show a commercial shipping depot in the Orion Arm. Take this facility, Dr. Xental explained. Standard design, used across thousands of worlds. The humans suggested some efficiency improvements to the cargo handling systems. 2 months later, the local government realized these improvements allowed the entire facility to be converted into a fortress capable of repelling a planetary invasion force. But how? Demanded a Rigelian representative. Our best engineers have studied these designs for centuries. Because we've all been thinking linearly, Dr. Xental replied. We see a cargo loader. We think about how to make it load cargo more efficiently. Humans see a cargo loader and think about how its articulated arms could be repurposed for defense, how its power systems could be modified to generate shield barriers, how its routing software could be adapted for tactical coordination. The display changed again, showing a series of seemingly unrelated civilian projects across different sectors. We've discovered that humans have been embedding these dual-purpose capabilities into everything they help design. But here's what's truly fascinating. They're not hiding these capabilities. The documentation for every project clearly outlines all possible applications. We just never thought to look for military potential in civilian infrastructure. Ambassador Anna's crystalline form pulsed with worried light patterns. The implications are staggering. Every piece of technology we've taken for granted, every standard system we've implemented across the galaxy, all of it could potentially be repurposed in ways we never imagined. And that's exactly what the humans want us to understand, came a quiet voice from the back of the chamber. All eyes turned to see Admiral Chen, Earth's representative, standing calmly at the entrance. The chamber fell silent as he walked to the center of the gathering. You all seem to think we're trying to hide our capabilities, Chen said, his voice carrying clearly through the space. But everything we've done has been completely transparent. We've shared our designs, documented our modifications, and offered our expertise freely. The only thing we've challenged is your assumptions about what technology can and cannot do. He gestured at the holographic display, which now showed various human innovations across the galaxy. We learned long ago that true security doesn't come from having the biggest weapons or the strongest shields. It comes from being able to adapt, to see potential where others see limitations. Every system we've helped design serves its stated civilian purpose perfectly. The fact that it can be repurposed for defense is simply an added benefit. The Thoraxian delegate clicked their mandibles nervously. But this changes the balance of power throughout the galaxy. Any world with these innovations could potentially resist even the strongest military force. Exactly, Chen smiled. Imagine a galaxy where every civilization, no matter how small, has the ability to defend itself, where peace is maintained not through the threat of superior firepower, but through the knowledge that conflict is ultimately futile. Dr. Xentel's scales shifted to a color of revelation. You're not just sharing technology. You're sharing a completely new way of thinking about it. Now you're beginning to understand. Chen nodded. Humanity's gift to the galaxy isn't our technology. It's our perspective. We've shown you that everything around you, every system you take for granted, can be more than what you imagined. The only limit is your willingness to see new possibilities. As the implications of this statement rippled through the assembled delegates, surveillance systems throughout the station, systems that had been recently upgraded with human consulting assistants, quietly monitored the proceedings. Each camera, each environmental sensor, each data node had been subtly modified, creating an invisible web of awareness that no one had thought to look for. The galaxy was changing, not through force or technological superiority, but through the simple act of learning to see things differently. And humanity was leading the way, one civilian innovation at a time. House modules were now revealing hidden capabilities. Their transparent panels, designed to focus sunlight for crops, were refracting concentrated energy beams that cut through drachnid shields like they didn't exist. Waste recycling systems ejected streams of precisely calculated debris, creating navigational hazards that forced enemy ships into predictable evasive patterns. Incoming transmission from New Eden Control, the communications officer announced. The screen shifted to show Governor Sarah Martinez, looking remarkably calm for someone in the middle of an invasion. Ah, Supreme Commander Vexterra, here to observe our planetary defense demonstration. Governor Martinez, Vexterra acknowledged, her scales flickering with mixed emotions. We detected the drachnid attack force and came to investigate. I see your colonies. Adaptations are proving effective. Martinez smiled. We've had 3 years to prepare this colony. Every building, every system, every piece of infrastructure was designed with multiple purposes in mind. The drachnids assumed they were attacking a vulnerable civilian settlement. Instead, they've encountered a fully integrated defense network disguised as a peaceful colony. The tactical display updated, showing new information about the colony's capabilities. The underwater hydroponic farms were generating gravitational distortion fields. Atmospheric processors were creating localized ion storms. Even the colony's waste management systems have been repurposed into a network of automated repair units, maintaining the colony's defenses during battle. Remarkable, Vexterra muttered. You've turned the entire colony into a weapon. Not a weapon, Martins corrected. A shield. Every system serves its primary civilian purpose perfectly. We simply designed them to serve additional functions when needed. The greenhouse domes still grow food. The waste processors still recycle materials. We've just helped them achieve their full potential. A new alert flashed on the tactical display. The Drachnid flagship, a massive dreadnought-class vessel, was attempting to coordinate a final assault. In response, the colony's defense network shifted again. Orbital habitats rearranged themselves into new configurations. Agricultural domes adjusted their positions. Even the planet's weather patterns began to change as atmospheric processors activated new protocols. Watch closely, Martins suggested. You're about to see why we call this the Chrysalis Protocol. The seemingly scattered elements of the colony's infrastructure suddenly moved in perfect synchronization. Orbital habitats linked together to form energy-focusing arrays. Agricultural domes aligned their reflective surfaces in precise patterns. The debris fields generated by waste processors formed complex three-dimensional grids. The Drachnid flagship fired its main weapon, a planet-cracking energy beam that could shatter worlds. But as the beam approached New Eden, something unprecedented happened. The colony's integrated systems worked in concert, catching the energy, redirecting it through the carefully arranged debris field, focusing it through the aligned agricultural domes, and finally reflecting it back at the Drachnid fleet through the linked orbital habitats. The result was devastating. The Drachnid ships, their shields optimized to project energy outward, were completely unprepared for their own weapon to be turned against them. Within moments, the invasion force was reduced to drifting debris. How? Vexterra's tactical officer whispered. Their technology level shouldn't allow for this. That's because you're still thinking in terms of technological advancement, Martinez explained. We didn't develop new technology. We simply looked at existing technology differently. Every component of our defense system is built from standard civilian equipment, used in ways nobody else considered. Vexterra watched as the colony began to reset itself, orbital habitats returning to their original positions, agricultural domes resuming their food production duties, waste processors returning to their mundane but essential tasks. Within hours, there would be no visible sign that the colony had just repelled a major invasion force. You understand now, don't you? Martinez asked, noting Vexterra's expression. Why we design things this way. Every human colony, every installation, every ship, they all look harmless because that's their primary purpose. We don't build weapons disguised as civilian infrastructure. We build civilian infrastructure capable of defending itself. As the Eternal Vigilance prepared to depart, Vexterra couldn't help but notice that her own ship's systems were beginning to look different to her. The standard power distribution network could potentially be reconfigured for offensive capabilities. The waste recycling system could be adapted for repair operations. Even the life support systems held untapped potential. The humans hadn't just created a new form of defense, they had introduced a new way of seeing the universe. And the galaxy would never be the same. A lesson in humility. 5 years after the Battle of New Eden, the Grand Assembly Chamber of the Galactic Concordat hummed with activity. Representatives from 1,000 worlds gathered for what many considered the most significant diplomatic summit in recent history. The massive chamber, traditionally arranged in hierarchical tiers based on technological advancement and military power, had been reorganized into a circular configuration at humanity's suggestion, a small but symbolic change that reflected the shifting dynamics of galactic society. Supreme Commander Vexterra, now serving as the Valdorian Empire's chief diplomatic representative, stood at the speaker's podium. Her scales, once predominantly showing the aggressive crimsons and blues of military authority, now displayed the more nuanced patterns of diplomatic service. 5 years ago, she began, we thought we understood the natural order of the galaxy. We believed that advancement followed a linear path, that military power was measured in standardized units of destructive capability, and that the strong had a duty to guide the weak. We were wrong. The holographic displays surrounding the chamber showed images from across known space, colonies that appeared to be simple settlements but could transform into fortresses, merchant vessels that doubled as defense platforms, and civilian infrastructure that concealed incredible strategic potential. The humans didn't just challenge our military doctrine, Vexterra continued. They forced us to question our most basic assumptions about technology, society, and progress itself. In doing so, they've created something unprecedented, a galaxy where peace is maintained not through the threat of superior firepower, but through the universal distribution of defensive capability. Ambassador Chen, sitting in the Earth delegation section, watched with quiet satisfaction. The changes of the past 5 years had exceeded even humanity's expectations. Their philosophy of adaptive design and dual-purpose technology had spread rapidly, transforming galactic society in ways no one could have predicted. a drachnid representative, their species having undergone significant political changes after the New Eden incident, raised their war crest in the traditional gesture of adding to discourse. Our own experience proves the wisdom of the human approach. When every world, every station, every settlement can defend itself effectively, the very concept of military conquest becomes obsolete. Our empire spent millennia building the galaxy's most powerful offensive fleet, only to discover that true security lies in making aggression itself futile. The chamber's displays shifted to show statistical analyses. Incidents of interstellar conflict had dropped by 70% in the past 5 years. Trade volumes had increased exponentially as worlds focused on civilian development, knowing their innovations could serve defensive purposes if needed. Even piracy had declined sharply, as raiders discovered that seemingly vulnerable merchant ships could quickly transform into formidable opponents. But perhaps most significantly, Vex Terra continued. We've seen a fundamental shift in how civilizations interact. The traditional power hierarchies that dominated galactic politics for millennia have given way to a new model of cooperation and mutual respect. When every world has the ability to defend itself, no one needs to bow to military pressure. The central hologram displayed a new image, a small agricultural world on the galaxy's outer rim. Its simple farms and processing centers looked unremarkable, yet contained the same potential for adaptation and transformation that had become humanity's signature contribution to galactic civilization. "This is Harmony's Rest," Chen explained, standing to address the assembly. "It's one of our newest colonies, but it represents everything we've been working toward. Every structure, every system, every piece of technology serves its primary peaceful purpose while maintaining the potential for defense. Not because we expect to be attacked, but because we understand that true peace comes from removing the temptation of easy conquest." A Centaurian crystal form pulsed with patterns of curiosity. But surely this level of defensive capability causes concern among the traditional powers. The ability to resist any military force could be seen as a threat in itself. Chen smiled. "That's the beautiful irony of our approach. We've created a form of defense that cannot be used for aggression. You can't conquer a world with agricultural domes and waste processors, no matter how effectively they can be repurposed for defense. We've separated military power from offensive capability, and in doing so, we've changed the very nature of interstellar relations." The displays showed new data, the rapid spread of human-inspired adaptive technology throughout the galaxy. But unlike traditional military technologies, these innovations weren't being hoarded by powerful empires or used to dominate weaker worlds. Instead, they were being shared openly, allowing every civilization to develop its own unique approaches to adaptive defense. "The humans," Vex Terra concluded, "have given us something far more valuable than new technology. They've given us a new way of thinking about progress itself. In their eyes, true advancement isn't about building bigger weapons or stronger shields. It's about finding new potential in what we already have." As the assembly continued, discussion turned to the future. The galaxy was entering an unprecedented era of peace and innovation, not through the dominance of any single power, but through the universal distribution of defensive capability. The old paradigm of military supremacy had given way to a new model where progress was measured not in destructive potential, but in adaptive capacity. And in orbit above the assembly world, countless satellites and stations continued their mundane duties of communication, navigation, and environmental monitoring. Each one was a testament to humanity's vision. Simple machines serving peaceful purposes, yet capable of becoming something more if ever needed. It was a quiet reminder that in the end, humanity's greatest contribution to the galaxy wasn't their technology or their military innovations. It was their imagination.